Okay, so right now it's fall of 2024. I just spent my summer in Texas doing door-to-door sales, selling pest control actually. And I had made a pre-summer video kind of explaining why I was doing it, what I hope to get from it, sort of the intangible goals and things that I hope to learn. And this video is kind of meant as like a bookend to that, kind of a response to that, to just share what it is that I did get out of this summer. And truth be told, it was impactful and kind of transformative. And as I talk about it, I got a little emotional, so just be ready for that. Yeah. Before the summer, the one who recruited me to do this pest control, her name's Diana, and she was kind of like my recruiter, but also kind of like my trainer, and helped me, follow up and answer questions and all that kind of stuff. So before the summer, she told me to make a goal. And obviously, like, my main goals had to do with the video I made before, like kind of the intangible goals of the ways in which I wanted to grow. But she said I should also have like a sales goal, like a number. And I've never done sales before, so I have no idea what's even like a good number. So she's like, why don't you make 3 goals? Like, the lowest goal would be whatever would be like the minimum you would want to do financially, and then make like a target goal that would be like what you're gonna do, you're gonna aim for, and like align all of your actions toward. And then an upper goal that would just be like sweet, awesome stretch goal kind of thing. So I did a little math and figured I wanted to make at least as much money as I would have made as a teacher for 3 or 4 months. And I figured that was just over 100 sales. So I chose 127 as my lower goal. Then I chose 217 as my target goal, and then 271 as my stretch goal. There's kind of a fun little mathematical stuff about why I chose those numbers, but truth is I had no idea why. Like, I had no idea how much to expect. Like, I'd never done sales before, obviously, so I had no idea if that was like a lot or if that was going to be super easy or what. All right, so after making those goals, I also did everything else I could to prepare for a successful summer. I read a bunch of sales books. The company I was working for had a little training program where I just like did a bunch of online training, plus watched a whole bunch of videos with like interviews with previous sales reps and like role plays and everything. Plus I just really feel like I made some sacrifices to be there. I'm a homeowner, I usually garden, and I kind of just put all that on hold, and everything else, just to go have this summer experience. Not that other sales reps don't sacrifice, but all I'm saying is I just really kind of, burnt the ships and went for it. Kind of like I said in the pre-summer video, I just wanted to commit fully, and like Toph advised, either stand there and stop the boulder or let it run over me. So that was kind of my mentality. And so I went into the summer and started off really good. I would even say I had what Paulo Coelho's Alchemist refers to as beginner's luck. Things were going really well. Over the next few weeks it got easier, but I would never say it got easy. It was always uncomfortable for me. Every single day there was butterflies in my stomach, there was tension. And just driving out to area, I would just be like, well, here we go. I'm still doing this. I'm still committing. And yeah, I had like a morning process to kind of help keep me focused, keep me growing, and, centered on selling and everything. One of the interesting things about my morning process was I was doing self-affirmations in the mirror, which I don't usually do that. I've like preached that before, like with students and things, and but I've never actually really done it much. But I just like had the idea to do it. So at the beginning of the summer, I wrote up my self-affirmations. I'll go ahead and share them with you right now. It said, I am grateful for my life and opportunities. I am capable of doing hard things and I can achieve excellence. I am worthy of time, attention, and respect. I do my best and accept the rest. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be blessed. May those I encounter be happy, may those I encounter be healthy, may those I encounter be blessed. May I contribute to goodness on earth. And so if you know me, you'd probably think, yeah, that sounds about right. That's kind of the the par for the course as far as, you know, what something I might say as far as a self-affirmation. Okay, so through May and June, that version of self-affirmations was part of my daily process. The rest of my process was typical stuff like when to wake up, you know, eating breakfast. I was very robotic about it. I would have pretty much the exact same breakfast every single day. I would do scripture study and like sales material study and maybe a little bit of personal study as well. One of the things I kept studying was dragons, because it's the year of the dragon. So I did a lot to that end. The other thing about that is that like I kind of felt like I'm on this quest. You know, I already am confronting fears and sort of living out the hero's journey, so to speak. And I just kind of expected that I would like have to face a dragon. So even like the home screen of all my devices, I just chose pictures of like puny heroes standing in front of huge dragons. Just, I don't know, kind of felt like that was gonna play a part in my summer somehow and remind me to like face this dragon and get the most I could out of the summer. And on a day-to-day basis, I had little tests and trials, but nothing that seemed like I was facing a dragon. So I was growing, I was experiencing this sales, and I was doing okay, doing pretty well, but kind of didn't really feel like I had fulfilled the like reasons for going on this quest in the first place, if that makes sense. So I was just time and time again kind of leaning into, you know, what's uncomfortable, what do I need to learn, what's the deep dark thing I don't want to face, and leaning into that. So like one example is like doors with no soliciting signs, and like some salesmen knock them, some don't. I was encouraged to, but it's tricky, it's tough. You like sometimes get people who are pretty upset, and maybe rightfully so. So you can hate me if you want, but I just kept feeling time and time again like, nope, I can't shrink away from a no soliciting sign. I've got to face it, got to knock that door, even if that person is just going to be pissed, even if I just made their day worse and mine too. For whatever reason, I felt like I had to do that, to rise up to that. So I was doing that kind of thing. And in other little ways, I just felt like I needed to be doing more of that. So in July, I just kind of decided to change my self-affirmations. I even kind of called it like Jack A. July because the self-affirmations got a little different. All right, so here's my Jack A. July self-affirmations. I provide the best pest control available and people need it. Therefore, I am confident and unapologetic. I do what it takes to make the sale possible. I'm here to make money, not friends. I impose because I must. It is okay if some interactions are negative. My own wants, needs, and preferences are my top priority. May I prosper according to my efforts. So yeah, nothing like sinister, but a lot more self-centered and a lot more, you know, different than what my normal MO would be. But yeah, I would say that in the mirror every morning all through like July. Okay, so through July, of course it's hot, and of course I'm still having little struggles here and there, and I feel like I'm learning and growing, but overall things are going well. I'm doing the best for anyone on my whole sales team, so I'm feeling pretty good about life. With about 3 weeks left in the selling season, one of the like traveling trainers comes to our branch and gives a little training to our sales team called Finishers Wanted. And he took that from a conference talk given by Thomas Monson, like way back when he was probably just a 12, one of the 12 apostles. And it had a bunch of good stuff in it. It talked about, you know, like just finishing strong and how you wanted to look back on your summer. There was a bunch of good stuff in the conference talk that kind of stuck out to me, like a poem and stuff. But the thing that stuck out the most, for whatever reason, was the lyrics to the song The Impossible Dream from the musical The Man of La Mancha. And yeah, I don't know, that just really stuck out to me for some reason as he gave this training. And at the end of his training, he gave us an invitation. He's like, as you go out on the doors today, just kind of check in with your goals and kind of decide, like, do you need to recommit yourself to hit those goals? What do you need to change up in order to get there? Or are they too far off and you just need to like make a more realistic goal that'll keep stretching you but at least be achievable? Or have you already crossed your goal and you need to make something new to achieve and, you know, keep yourself stretching instead of just coasting to a stop at the end of the summer? So at this time in the summer, I had actually just like a week ago crossed the minimum goal that I had set of like what would be the minimum amount to be worth it. Plus, I had just recently read a book called The Gap and the Gain. And that was actually a book that was recommended by the higher ups in the company. And it's all about like, don't measure from where you are to the goal. That's the gap mentality. Instead, measure from where you started to where you are. And that's the gain mentality. And a lot of good reasons for doing that way. It keeps you like in a more healthy mindset and stuff like that. So I went out on the doors and took his invitation, like, okay, yeah, should I set a new goal? Like, I already crossed the 127, but 217 is still pretty far off. Maybe I could go for 169, which is like a good, another centered hexagonal number. And I don't know, as I was thinking about that, I was like pretty sure I knew what I wanted. I just had read The Gap and the Gain, and it was all about just like, be grateful for the progress you've seen based on where you started. And so I was like, sweet, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll keep working consistently. I'm not gonna let up and be lazy. I'll just keep working consistently, but then any sales I get from here on out are just bonus. It's just all the more the better, but like no pressure. And there's only like 3 weeks left of the summer. So yeah, I'm home free. That was like my mentality. And here's where I feel like God intervened. I felt a dialogue with the heavens that was as powerful as any that I've ever really experienced. And it was kind of like, no, you already know how to be grateful for what you have. You already know how to be consistent. That's not what you're here to do. You're here to get results. You're here to learn how to get results and do what it takes to do them. And I want you to get to that 217. And I was kind of like shocked a little bit. I was like, but who cares? Like, I don't care if I get to 217. I didn't even know what I was doing when I made that goal. I did it for like basically dorky mathematical reasons. But I felt pretty strongly, no, go for 217, make it happen. So I like pulled out my calculator. I'm like doing the math, like that would be basically like doing 4 sales a day. And not that that's impossible. I've had days of 4 a day, but I can't consistently do it. Like my best week so far had been 21 in a 6-day work week, right? So 4 a day would have been quite a bit better. So yeah, I don't know. I just like had doubts and stuff. I texted Diana, the one who, you know, was my trainer and kind of supervisor. And I like asked her like, well, Landon encouraged us to, you know, revisit our goals and decide if we wanted to, you know, do something else. So what do you think? Do you think I should like just make a new goal or just focus on being consistent and not worry about the goal? Or should I like try to achieve that target goal of 217? So I like sent her that text question, and like even before she had a chance to respond, like a couple minutes later, I texted her again. I was like, all right, like I appreciate any input you have, but I guess I've already decided I'm gonna go for 217, and I guess I'll do whatever it takes to get there. But there was some reluctance on my part, right? Like it just felt kind of impossible. It felt like a really tall order. But in the face of the impossible, those freaking lyrics from The Impossible Dream came back to my mind. And I was kind of like bugged by it. Because like, that's from The Man of La Mancha, which is about Don Quixote. And he's out of his freaking mind. Like, I don't know, like, I guess this is part of the point, but like, you're never really sure whether to consider him like this really unassailable hero or just like a pitiable character that's out of his freaking mind. And that's exactly how I felt when I was like, I'm going for 217. Like, it felt at the same time absurd and heroic. But yeah, there's one other part of this that at our training meetings every day, we would clap out goals. That's where we'd stand in a circle just before leaving to get in our cars. And we would just declare how many sales we wanted to get that day. So most days I would say 3, like 1, 2, 3, you know, and then the next person would say 5 or whatever their goal was. And I'd kind of gotten into a rhythm of just saying 3 almost every day. But that morning, for whatever reason, I had only said 2. And that wasn't out of like a sense of futility or discouragement. It was actually out of a sense of just like gratitude and like, hey, I'm in the game, baby. I'm just happy for whatever. I'm just gonna go for 2. I don't need 3. So I'd clapped out 2 that morning. But after this like dialogue with the heavens here, I like texted the team and I was like, look everyone, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to amend my goal. I'm gonna go for 4 today. And that area was kind of what I would consider like a dead area. I had already been in there the previous Saturday and got 0 sales. It just seemed like no one was interested at all. And up until this point in the day, you know, only a couple hours in, but I had also still had 0. But that day, I ended with 4. So Monday night, I get in and I fall to my knees in gratitude and I'm just kind of praying like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. I felt prompted to do it and I'm in. I'll do what it takes. And there's things you can do to try to get more sales. One is just put more hours in on the doors, and they call it red flagging. I'd red flagged a few times during the summer and it takes it out of me. Honestly, I felt like I was already pretty much at my sustainable physical limit. Like I was barely making it to the end of the day every day. And days that I would red flag would just be so hard. Like literally hard to stay on my feet. And I think part of it is just all the standing around. Like walking for 8 hours does not seem that hard. But standing around for 8 hours just felt like my legs were always sore in weird ways, weird places. And when I'd like lay in my bed at night, my calves would just like spasm all night. And it would just be worse on days that I'm putting in like 2 extra hours, 10-hour days. But I was like, all right, guess I'm willing to red flag. And so I did that a couple times that week. But after that first Monday of getting 4, the rest of that week just went very mediocre. I was getting like 1s and 2s, plus like previous customers were canceling and I was just falling further behind. And it was excruciating. Like I was not in the gain mindset, I was in the gap mindset, but I felt like I had to be. I felt like that was my duty, was to like figure it out and suffer to motivate me to figure it out, I guess. But I'm like kind of coming to terms with the fact that like maybe I need to extend the summer. Like August 17th was scheduled to be the last day for everyone, but I'm realizing like I'm falling further behind. I'm not going to get to my goal, not going to get to 217 by August 17th. It's just not going to happen. So maybe the doing what it takes that I need to do is to extend. And I mean, I had Labor Day plans with my family at Bear Lake, and I'm like texting my mom like, is it okay if I don't make it to that? Like, I don't know how the next couple weeks are gonna go, but I might have to miss that, you know? And then I had a rafting trip the week after that in early September, and I really couldn't get around that. I was the permit holder, which means if I cancel for everyone. And I just wasn't really willing to do that. But I was like, okay, I guess I can at least extend, you know, the 2 weeks of August. So even with that, I'm really just not selling enough to make it happen. Like 1 and 2 a day is just not really enough. So over those couple weeks, like I say, it was just excruciating. Honestly, I was an emotional wreck. I probably cried more through those weeks of August than I had like the last 4 years in my life, like all together. I'm just like crying between doors because I don't know, like it wasn't like frustration or discouragement necessarily, but it was something. It was maybe just like the sheer feeling of the enormity of the task, but also kind of feeling like it was God's hand that gave me that task and feeling that in my life. I don't know, it's just kind of a lot. Some of the things I compared it to is I sort of felt like when Peter was out of the boat trying to walk on water and just trying to achieve a miracle, but hey, he was bidden to come by the Lord, so theoretically he should be able to do it, right? That's kind of how I felt, like trying to keep the faith. So speaking of keeping the faith, I changed my self-affirmations one more time, and I called it Auspicious August, just for fun. But I changed my affirmations to say, I will keep the faith, I will keep the focus, I will keep the fire. It's not about money or sales, it's about something higher. I will do my best, giving all I am able, play all my cards, leave nothing on the table. I will sacrifice my energy, my will, and more to qualify myself for the miracles in store. I will finish my quest, I will pass my test, till the prize is gained, till the dragon is slain. And boy, I mentioned earlier that I just didn't really feel like I had confronted the dragon yet, but at this point, every day when I looked at my home screens, I was like, yep, that is me. I am, this is it. This is my dragon. Like, it felt so certain and obvious that that's what it was. Like, this is my test. I got to figure out how to do this and make, you know, kind of like impose my will, even though I didn't care less about 217, but impose that on the world and like, okay, world, give me this thing that I want. And yeah, it was just tough. And eventually the other salespeople go home. It's August 17th and I'm still way behind and people are still canceling, and I'm just marching toward this 217, but not fast enough to even do it in the next 2 weeks, which is what I'd hoped to do to get home by Labor Day. The other thing that I really felt like was in The Alchemist. I mean, that book, here's a quick like side tangent about The Alchemist, but like I'd read it a couple times before. I'd read it in college and I had such a great experience with it, and I was like, oh, this is such a beautiful story and everyone should live their life this way. And then I read it again a few years after college and I was like, what a load of crap. I mean, it's a cute story, it's a good story, but of course, like, nobody should live their life that way. That's not the way life works. Then the third time I read it was, I may have read it another time in there, but I read it again this summer while I was out there in Texas, because honestly, it felt like I was living the story. And even most so at this point where I feel like I'm supposed to get to this 217 and I felt like it was kind of impossible. I felt very much like Santiago did when he was expected to just turn himself into the wind. And like, how are you supposed to do that? Like, it's impossible. And he's gonna die if he doesn't, right? Well, that's kind of how I felt. So I actually took a little inspiration from the book. Like in the book, he does it by having this conversation with like the desert and the wind and the sun, and basically comes down to love, right? Love is the thing that transforms. And so he kind of just like learns to transform into the wind with love. Anyway, so I just like thought, how could I do that? Yeah, I'll go out there and I'll just like love the people. And when I knock on their doors, I'll just like try to have this feeling of love for them. And I'll just love that I'm out here with this experience, like having this experience for growth. And love the sales team that just went home, that's all supporting me. And like, I don't know, that was kind of my mentality. And so this first week of all the other salespeople gone, first week of being on my own, that's kind of like my mantra, or my, that's where my mindset's at. And I did pretty well on Monday, but then the rest of the week just pretty lackluster, like not enough to really make it seem like I'm gonna get there before the end of August, which is what I really hoped, because I wanted to spend Labor Day with my family. And plus at the end of August, I was gonna get kicked out of my apartment and have to find a new place to stay. So I don't know, the pressure's still on, right? So that week goes okay, but I just still have a lot more to go, a lot more than, you know, I was getting like 12 and 13 for the past few weeks. So yeah, anyway, so as I go into the last week of August, the second week of being on my own, I really need like at least 2 more weeks to get there. And I just didn't know if I was gonna be able to do it. And like kept having conversations with Diana about it, and she was very helpful, and she was like saying like, you can always, you know, go home for your rafting trip and then fly back afterward and sell more. And like, that's fine. But I feel like if I had to do that, at that point I've already failed. Like the point was to try to like get results and like see miracles happen or something, you know? And just extending the time indefinitely just didn't seem like that was gonna really be a success. But okay, a couple more important things. On Thursday morning of this first week on my own, I had like a just online therapy session, and my therapist was great. Told me some great things about like, look, you know, even if you don't get your goal, the fact that you have had this experience, this trying experience, will still be to your benefit, right? And you know, he kind of talked about Joseph Smith and his depths in Liberty Jail, and how like all these things shall give him experience, you know? So he's like, if you get your goal, that's great, you'll get experience. But if you don't get your goal, having tried and given it your all, like that's an experience too. And that kind of resonated with me, because you know, the Impossible Dream lyrics, the world shall be better for this, that one man, worn and covered with scars, still strove with his last dying breath to reach the impossible stars, you know? Like, maybe the world would be better if I tried and even just failed. But man, I just really didn't want to fail. All right, so the other really important conversation took place on Monday morning of the last week of August, my second week of being on my own, and what I was hoping was going to be my last week of being there. I have a phone call with Diana, and she's just kind of like, you know, she told me a lot of great things. One was just like 90% of a goal is still not nothing, right? It's still better than 80% of a goal. And it's of course better than 0% of a goal. It's not 0. And so that helped, but again, like I didn't feel like that was the point for me. Like I was supposed to see these results for whatever reason. I reminded her that when I made that goal, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but for some reason I just like said this about that goal. I said, that's the number that I feel like represents that I've learned what I needed to learn as a salesman. And that kind of kept coming back to me as like, that's really true. Like for some reason, I feel like that number just represents that I've learned what I needed to learn. And she was kind of like, well, what if you don't learn that? And it kind of like dawned on me. I had this epiphany, like, then I might have to come back next summer. And that was just like excruciating that was like unbearable to like think I might have to do this again next summer. Because, you know, like I said, it got easier over time, but it never got easy. It was just always hard, always uncomfortable, always way outside my normal MO. And the last thing I wanted to do was do it again. And, but with that, I kind of had this epiphany of like, that's the thing. I really don't want to face. Like, it's not about being there and doing it. It was like the becoming a salesperson. Like, it's one thing to like be there having a sales experience, and then I can look back on it later and laugh with my friends, be like, yeah, can you believe I did that for one summer? At least I made some good money. But it's another thing to be like, no, I learned to integrate this thing that I despised, this thing that I abhorred and thought was like kind of shady and shisty. I integrated that and made it part of me. You know, it must have very much felt like Aang learning to firebend. Like, his experience with firebenders was, they killed all the people he loves, all his friends' loved ones as well. Plus, like, when he tries to firebend, he ends up hurting those he loves as well. And now he's expected to not just learn to firebend, but like become a firebender. That's like how it felt. So, kind of had this epiphany on the drive out to my area, but I just surrendered. I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll love not just being here, not just the people, but I'll even love sales. I'll love being a salesman. And so, you know, a little bit different than the mentality I had the previous week where I was just trying to love the people. No, now I'm actually gonna love the sales process. And so I tried that day, went out that day and stood on people's doors, and I looked them in the face and loved them, but I also loved being a salesman. Like, it's like this hidden dialogue in my mind that's like, all right, you're here, I'm gonna try to convince you to buy this. Let's dance, baby. And like, I don't know, like, that was a little different mentality. Like, it just felt like I was becoming a salesman. And that day I got 7 sales. The next day I got 5 sales. Wednesday I only got 3, but that's okay because Thursday I got another 5. And when I ended the day on Thursday, I had 217 sales. And that was the final week of August. I was ready to be there Friday and Saturday. I actually did go out and sell on Friday, but I didn't even make any sales on Friday, which was fine. I think I made one on Saturday as I was driving home, somebody that like returned a phone call and signed up or whatever. But yeah, I got to 217, and truth be told, some of them canceled, and I think I ended up with like 211 on the payday or whatever. But whatever, I feel like I had gotten to what I needed to in order to show that I had learned what I needed to learn. So yeah, I don't know if I'll have to go back again next summer, but I know that if I do, I can handle it. It'll be a little bit of a pill to swallow, but it's not going to be doomsday. It's not going to be unbearable. It's going to be like, okay, round 2, and this time I'm going to do it even better, or not. Like, I can do it worse and still be happy with it. And so, yeah. All right. So yeah, that was my takeaways and epiphanies. It's not just about having a sales experience. It's about becoming a salesperson. It's not just about experimenting with imposing my will, but it's about becoming the kind of person that can and does know how to impose their will. And I don't know, in my mind, in my head, it still kind of feels sort of wrong. Like, I can use my reason and logic to be like, that's just not a good way to be a member of society. But whatever, in my heart, I just feel like that's what I needed to do. That's the growth I needed to experience. This fall, how it's played out so far, it's kind of interesting. I feel like coming home has been hard. In a lot of ways, it feels like coming home from my mission. Like, although from coming home from my mission, I had pretty clear direction of what I was going to do next. I was going to school. Now I'm kind of like even more lost than I was then. But I've tried to keep good routines and processes. to keeping myself productive and, you know, just on an upward trend. But the more important thing is like how this mentality is gonna play out. And I don't really know that yet. Like, I don't think I've really seen it play out in any of my life back home yet, but I feel like it's going to, and I feel like I'm ready. Like, I do feel a little different. There's some branch of confidence that I feel that wasn't there before, and I guess I'm ready to go out on that branch when it's called for. There is one other like epiphany I had that I think is really important as well, and that is when it comes to like imposing my will on others. I think one of the things I've had the hardest time with is imposing present me's will on future me. Like, big decisions, you can look back totally justifiably and be like, past me had no freaking clue what the heck he was doing, right? Which makes present me kind of afraid of like imposing my will on future me, because yeah, I have no idea how things are going to turn out. I don't know the future. So if there's like one thing I think I personally really needed to learn, it's that I need present me to be willing to impose my will on future me, for better or worse. And sure, present me has no freaking clue what's best, how things are gonna work out, but he's gonna just go for it. And future me will have to just nod and be like, yep, well, he did the best he could at the time. At least he didn't do nothing. So yeah, that's for those that know me, that's probably a lesson you could see that I obviously needed to learn. All right, so here's the little footnote for why I chose the 3 numbers I did for my goal. For whatever reason, I've just been like kind of obsessed with the number 6 and like base 6 number system and stuff like that. Hexagons. So there's something called centered hexagonal numbers. Like if you have one hexagon in, it's just one, you know, and that's the first centered hexagonal number. But then you can tile 6 hexagons around that for a total of 7, which is the next centered hexagonal number. And then you can tile 12 around that, making 19 for the next centered hexagonal number. And something that's kind of neat, the way the digits work out, 127, 217, and 271 are all centered hexagonal numbers, which is just fun that the digits work out that way. In fact, even 721 is also a centered hexagonal number, but 712 is not, because of course they're all odd numbers because of that one hexagon in the middle to get it started. So I just think that's kind of cool. And so I made my goals off of that, and they were roughly correlated with like breaks in the like compensation as well. Like if you get, you know, over 200, you get some certain amount of bonuses, but you can expect some to cancel. So it's not good to just go for 200, it's good to go for a little over 200. So yeah, that's why 217 and then 271 would have taken me over the 250 sale bonus. So that was why I chose those numbers. There is one centered hexagonal number in between 127 and 217, and that's 169, which I also considered going for at some point, but glad I didn't, I guess. One other important part of my conversation with Diana that I almost forgot was I mentioned how, like, yeah, the reason it was so uncomfortable and so disagreeable was just that I just hate imposing on people. It's just not in my nature. I have some sort of like deep-seated thing about like not being an imposition to other people and not being like a net negative, but, you know, being a net positive in the world, right? May I contribute to goodness in the world, that kind of thing. And she also said something else. It was just so wonderful. And she said that like, I'm probably not imposing as much as I think I am. Like, to me, it might seem like a big imposition to have somebody answer the door, but that to most people, it doesn't even affect their day. Or if it does, that my presence is a delight, and that people are glad to have met me, even if all I was doing was trying to sell them something. And I do think there's truth to that. I think there's, not every door, but most doors, I feel like I was able to exchange a genuine smile with somebody, and maybe, you know, maybe it was an inconvenience to answer the door, but maybe the net positive in the world is still better just because we got to exchange a smile, you know, something like that. So yeah, that was another just really beautiful thing to hear, and I really appreciated it.
All this time, I thought firebending was destruction. Since I heard Katara, I've been too afraid and hesitant. But now I know what it really is. It's energy and life.
This is a nice view, isn't it? Kind of the trees all around me are mostly browned by now, but down there in this little valley, it's still very yellow and bright. It's really cool.